Final Fantasy VI is known for having one, if not the best final boss fight in the series. But why is that? Today I'm going to break down why any percent glitchless speedrunners get to enjoy such a masterpiece of a fight, and the intricacies around it, making it a great climax to an amazing run. We are choosing glitchless for this video as the glitched run's final fight is, yeah. Cool. There you go, kids. All characters in Espers is also a run with glitches, but with the amount of resources we gather throughout the run, the fight is quite the raffle stomp that bypasses many of the intricacies we'll be talking about today. Maybe in a later video we'll look over what that run entails, but essentially it's a lot of breaking shields, mimicking the breaking shields, and nuking down most of the tiers in only a few rounds. This video will be focusing on the Super Nintendo version, but be aware that the same concepts apply both to the GBA, iOS, and Pixel remaster as well, even though there are some strategy differences and builds. SNES just has the best, in my opinion, mixture of everything that makes this fight amazing. A lot of the gear setups I will talk about will be the riskier, faster strategies, but there are safer setups for people that are learning the run, so please keep that in mind. First, we need to look at how we got here and what makes it great to even get to the final boss fight. Early on, the runner has to deal with large chunks of RNG from bad boss patterns, troll enemy attacks, or simply bad runaways from a lot of the fights. This gets circumvented by 7 scenario when we get smoke bombs and runaways become more consistent, however. That being said, 7 scenario also has this little geek. He can choose to show up or not to show up, and honestly it's a bit of a kick in the dick. Throughout the run, there are several boss fights who can cause a wipe, and without safety saves, this could mean the end of a run. Such boss fights would be Cranes or even 128. There are even some random encounters like the solo slam dancer and Zozo that can throw a wrench into the plans. As the runner battles through RNG, skillful menus, and manipulations, we finally have an airship and 3 characters in the world of Ruin. We only pick up 3 characters in this run for what we call the 6-man chart. These extra characters are Mog, Sabin, and Gogo in that order. However, this is to get us through the entirety of Kefka's Tower, but today we're only going to talk about the final fight. Our party consists as such. Sabin, who really has no protection for much and is only really here for a few pivotal moments. We're going to give him double earrings since everything he's going to do is magical, and by everything I mean he's going to break a thunder shield and he's going to bomb rush. He will be entering the fight at level 27. Next we're going to have Edgar, who is level 19, and he will be our tank. He's going to be geared with as much magical evasion as possible, and he's also going to be donning the True Knight to protect our party from physicals when they're in crit HP, and he'll be able to block because of his high evasion. The Magic Cape also is going to give some magical evasion, but it's also prevent Imp and Silence, which is a key component for one part of the fight. Next are the damage dealers. Gogo is less of one, but still a good one, being right around level 29. Rocking a Thunder Shield helps with damage reduction negation, will be a useful item in the end of the fight. Also rocking double earrings or hero rings, the goal is to pump out damage based off of others' attacks. And finally we have Celeste. She's at level 42 and is the cannon part of this glass cannon. She only has magic enhancing gear and is the reason stuff will be nuked as hard as it is. Now that we are sort of familiar with our under-leveled party, it's time for the fight. After a long cutscene with the party confronting Kefka, the screen fades and the music of the gods begin. Welcome to Tier 1. Tier 1 has 3 enemies that we need to take down. Let's start with the easiest of them. Long Arm is the right arm of the body and has 33,000 HP. It will either use Shockwave, an attack, or nothing. This doesn't really matter as it's susceptible to death and petrification. With Break having a slightly higher hit chance and faster animation, this is one of our objectives. Hopefully Edgar can land it on the first turn, or else we're going to have some decisions to make. Short Arm is the body's left arm with a lower 27,000 HP. He will either do physicals or nothing until an HP threshold, which shouldn't happen if you go through the fight properly. But he can throw out Razor Gales if we do end up getting into that threshold. He'll be the last one for us to kill, and I'll explain why after we talk about Visage. This is the biggest worry of this section. He has 30,000 HP, but he is weak to fire. So Celeste can handle him pretty quickly with fire too, And that's how this fight is going to start. Hopefully the head doesn't do reverse polarity, which forces the entire round of us just having to swap everyone back to the back row. Celeste will start hitting the head with fire too. Since he's weak to fire, Celeste will be doing max damage quite easily. Sabin will finish it off with a punch since we only need 3 more damage to be done. We just need to make sure we kill the head first, as if you leave him for last, he will use Quake as a death counter. And that means our party will just be dead for pretty much everything. So now that we know the game plan, let's go over the order of operations. You start with a random ATB, which makes planning a little more reactive. You want to prioritize Celeste as she's the main damage. Her first goal is to fire to the head as we mentioned before, and try and take it out as fast as possible. Sabin's only guaranteed job in this fight is to punch the head once to finish off the last remaining HP as we mentioned. While this is going on, we want Edgar to cast Break on the long arm. This has a decent chance to hit, but it's not guaranteed. It's somewhere around 65% chance to hit. This is when we start to get hit by choices depending on what happens. If Edgar misses, we need Gogo to cast Haste on Celeste regardless since she's the main damage. But if Gogo's already done that, does Gogo cast Haste on himself? Or do you have him casting Break and you just have Edgar not do anything assuming this break actually lands? After all this goes off, we do have a couple of other things to consider. The head is dead and the long arm is dead, and we just have the short arm. The short arm has a very high chance to counterattack, it seems. While you can do 2 bum rushes to make up for 1 ice 3, you also have to make sure that Sabin nor Gogo are going to die to a counterattack. The counterattack does rule of thumb roughly about 1000 to 1100 damage. So you either want to do this at full HP, or when they're in critical HP so that Edgar will block the attack for them. Otherwise, stick with Celeste and make sure that she's healthy and throw out some ice 3s. I'm not entirely convinced that throwing out the bum rushes is faster anyways, but if done properly, it can actually help you out a little bit. Depends on ATB lineups, but you want to make sure that Celeste isn't being held back since she's the only one doing actual meaningful damage all by herself. Tier 2 has 4 parts to it, and they can all be a little bit nasty. Magic. You guessed it, cast magic. Like, some pretty good stuff too. There are various damage thresholds, and magic also has 41,000 HP, the most out of everything for some reason. Why the mage has the most amount of HP? I don't know. Power only throws out physicals and has a measly 28,000 HP. Tiger will throw out some pretty gross attacks like Doom Tusk, N-Cross, S-Cross, Flare Star. He has 30,000 HP, but luckily is weak to ice. Machine, we mostly just want to make sure we don't see Diffractive Laser or Atomic Ray, but overall, he's the least worrisome of all 4 for the first half of this fight. He is susceptible to death, and being a machine is also weak to thunder. This section is all about paying attention to the opener. Haste 2 means things are going to be a little bit rocky since everything will be a lot faster. You could also be lucky and block an Imp spell right off the hop. Ideally, if anyone dies in the first round, you're hoping it's Sabin since he doesn't have much to do in this fight at all. One thing to mention in this fight is we do rely a little bit on item luck throughout the run. In the world of Balanced Thamasa, we buy a ton of rods, and one of them being a lot of thunder rods. We're hoping that through floating content, we don't have to use too many of them via getting a lot of ninjas. But if we do have 2 thunder rods, Celeste can break them, and this can allow us to skip using Doom on Machine and just go straight ahead. You may see an extra attack, you actually probably will see an extra attack, but the faster animation of Bolt 2 and the fact that you can just go straight ahead into killing Tiger as well right off the hop does make it a little bit faster, albeit a little bit riskier. Being able to use the Thunder Rods also makes it so that we're not using MP from Celeste. Since Ice 3 casts a lot of MP, we can save ourselves about 100 MP give or take, which means we don't need to worry about using an elixir throughout the entirety of the fight. The rods themselves do a good amount of damage since they do ignore magic defense, and in the Super Nintendo, they'll always roll the highest damage roll as well. With having Celeste pop 2 of these to kill Machine and a good deal of damage to the rest, Gogo just needs to do a little bit of cleanup before we finish off Machine and Tiger at once. Once we take care of those 2, the main issues of the fight are pretty much taken care of. What about magic, you ask? Funny enough, magic can be silenced, and since magic can only use, you guessed it, magic, this means that magic will have nothing to do until the kill counter attack, which is nothing we need to worry about since it's something that we can always handle with and we're not going to die to it. This is another fight where you could roll bomb rushes, but I feel like again it hinders Celeste because it's doing more damage in less time. This is another fight where rolling bomb rushes could be a thing, but I feel like it hinders Celeste from doing more damage in less time. And we want them to hit power first. So you're basically banking on 50-50, or else she's not really going to get too much extra time save off of it. When we do get power to die, it'll use the move 10 hits, which is just 10 physicals for decent damage. We're in the back row, and if you have people in critical, Edgar's going to protect them. This is where Edgar shines. Edgar should be set to defend before the actual kill attack, so in the event that he doesn't block, it's only going to do 300 damage and he'll be able to take 2 attacks. That being said, he has a block chance of around 90 to 92%. Our HP at the end of this fight doesn't matter as long as everyone else is alive. So that being said, you just kind of hope that Edgar stands in, and Celeste more than likely will have HP to take a few hits to the face as well. But what if we don't have Thunder Rods, you ask? This is when we need to change up the strategy a little bit, and Celeste will just spam Ice 3s on everything instead. You'll have either Gogo or Edgar cast Death on Machine, and the other one will cast Silence on Magic. Due to the extra animations and the extra MP Celeste is bucking through, we're going to need an elixir to be thrown on Celeste before tier 2 is done. So you're losing time on animation, extra attacks, and a bit of a slower strategy just overall. Magic ends up being quite a puppy dog that while Celeste is nuking it down as the last bit, you're basically, the only thing you're worried about is Dispel landing on Celeste. If this happens, it's not a huge thing. We just need to keep note of it to start off tier 3. But huzzah, we are moving on now to tier 3. Going into tier 3 is always nerve-wracking. You can get an opener of nothing, which is ideal. White Wind is fine, because nothing has actually happened yet. W Wind would bring people into crit HP, assuming it isn't blocked, but that's whatever. Or you can see Merton. Merton is one of the main bane of existences for this fight. It will kill Edgar and Sabin, no questions asked. Full HP, half HP, doesn't matter. Gogo and Celeste will negate any of the damage through it, but we don't have anything that was on the way to save Edgar or Sabin. First off, we need to kill Lady, and she only has 10,000 HP. She is even weak to every single element in the game. The issue is, she also absorbs every single element in the game, so really all that will happen is you will just heal her for more. We don't have anything targetable that will kill her fast, but we do have Bum Rush, which is a 50-50. So the first goal is to survive turn 1 and use Bum Rush with Sabin. We're praying that he hits Lady. If he does, you can mimic with Gogo, and Gogo will always hit the same target as Sabin. Then Lady is dead and we can move on. This is assuming that Rest also doesn't get a Pearl Wind in the middle. In the event that Pearl Wind happens between our two Bum Rushes, you just need to wait on Gogo again to throw out another one. You don't want any actions in between because you lose your Bum Rush targeting. And you just hope that you don't see anything like Merton, otherwise you're going to be in a lot of damage control. In the event that the boys feel like going for Rest, this will be a little bit of an issue. You see, Rest has a bit of an HP threshold that we need to watch out for before you just start spamming Meteo, which is really going to rock us. So throughout the entirety of this fight, we are going to be tracking Rest's HP. And this means any Ice 3s we do, any Bum Rushes we do, any Mertons that happen, since that can be calculated into it as well. In the event that he gets to that threshold and you're not ready for it, it is in your best interest to heal him so you can get set up for the kill setup. You can heal him with an elixir, which would heal for 9,999, but we don't really care about that when you could also throw a Revivify, and it only heals him for 5,000, which is just one Bum Rush, and away we go. Meaning that Celeste is ready to go. The issue with Meteo is it ignores magic defense, and it hits everybody. You can block it, the accuracy on it isn't amazing, but you don't want to bank on it not hitting people when it can also just destroy all of us. So when you start calculating HP and you're thinking about, did I land 1 or 2 Bum Rushes? Did I get a nice 3 off? How many Mertons came through? Did we get pushed into the phase and we need to back out of it again? All of these things you need to calculate in your head. But say we're right up to the threshold that we need. This is where we're ready to go. Everyone's alive, Rest is just sitting there ready to get killed. What we need to do is we need to wait for Rest to do an attack so we know where the ATB is, considering that this kill setup is very tight. If you get a Merton, you have to heal up Edgar, you have to heal up Sabin, and you wait for the next one. This one is very unfortunate. Sometimes, if you have someone with 1 HP, W-Wind will do 1 HP, even though the fact that it is fractional damage. But you see the attack go, you're gonna queue up Sabin with a Mega Elixir. You're gonna go right to Celeste and you're gonna ATB wait this entire thing. ATB waiting is gonna be your biggest friend here, otherwise we are gonna get absolutely nuked, and you'll see why in a second. After the Mega Elixir, Celeste is gonna queue up a nice 3. There is a chance that we see a counter attack, and you're banking on it. You're waiting on Gogo. If you see a Meteo, you're gonna revive Sabin unless there's the very low chance that he actually dodges a Meteo attack. Edgar should block it unless you get extremely unlucky, and Celeste and Gogo can tank it to the face and it's okay. If you get hit with Train, you're gonna want to remedy Celeste so that she can actually do the kill attack. And if you get the nothing, you question if you counted your damage properly and you continue on as normal. Rest has ATB generation happening during counters, so you need to ATB wait them because otherwise he's gonna get his turn before you're ready with yours. In the event that we get hit with Train, one thing we need to do is make sure that we are vanished so that we can avoid the calmness counter kill attack. Now, this is bad because of Medio, and this is why the setup is so important. Now you're probably wondering, B-Dude, why would he be able to cast Phantom if he is silenced? This is the reason why we put the white cape on Edgar. We don't really care about the imp earlier on, we can take care of that. What we do care about is the fact that he's gonna be able to cast Phantom while we can also fix Celeste. And being able to throw 2 remedies in this, as long with everything else, is just not feasible. You get your counter attack, you deal with it properly with Gogo, you go over to Edgar. Edgar casts Phantom. Now you need to get over to Celeste as fast as possible. This is why the haste is so important. If she is not hasted, she will not get her attack in time and you will eat the Medio. Now, like we were saying before, the reason why this is very scary is when you're vanished, your magic evasion goes down to 0, which means that Medio is a guaranteed kill, which means Sabin will die, Edgar will die, Gogo will be very close to death, and Celeste will die. And you will lose your vanish, which means with 2 characters dead and a possible 2 chances of calmness at the end, you could just completely wipe because you just let things roll right on through. Now the reason we need Phantom for calmness is even though it looks like a spell, it's actually a physical attack that deals instant death. There is a chance that you could block it, but you don't want to risk it, especially when you're this far in, and the next fight becomes phenomenally easier if we have our entire party. So we have made it through the trolliest part of the fight. We got through tier 3 where most runs will either die or lose so much time that you just wanted it to die. Rest is dead. A sigh of relief comes over the runner. The screen transitions up, and there he is. The big bad himself, Kefka. Now, Kefka has some really nasty stuff throughout his fight script. The reason I think this is the perfect final boss fight is after a tough run of 5 hours, and you've just gone through an entire slog fest of RNG 3 times in a row for this final fight. Now it is literally up to execution. This is a scripted fight. It's a very tight and precise execution, but it is possible to do. Kefka is able to be scripted because we can manipulate his HP threshold attacks and his AI scripting. With the proper ATB weight, but with a strong nuke at the start, you can skip Fallen One. This is a move that brings everyone to 1 HP and it's unblockable. But then you get into a point where he starts throwing out really crazy moves like Havoc Wing or Hyperdrive, which deals stupid amounts of damage. So we need to push it even more until we get his HP threshold into where he brings out the head and it starts shaking a lot. This is what we call the Beyond Chaos phase. In this phase, it takes away all of his counters so that he can land his big bad move, Goner. This is a long animation and it deals a really good amount of damage. This phase with the gear we have is also only a couple of ATB tick variants, but it makes a world of difference on such a long animation. So Sabin's gonna break a Thunder Shield and Gogo's gonna mimic it. This basically is a 2-for-1 deal thanks to the mimic ability. Celeste is gonna throw an Ice 3 and Edgar's gonna stand there just looking pretty. Pretty nervous, but still pretty. Then the Beyond Chaos happens. Celeste queues up an Ice 3 the instant her turn comes up, and the runner's gonna ATB wait it. Sabin and Gogo bum rush, and Celeste queues up the final Ice 3. It sounds really easy when you just break it down like this, but watching it, you only get a couple of ticks where you're actually able to do it, so you're basically queuing up her turn and swapping over to her before her bar is even filled. There's a nice little sweet spot when you hit the button before it actually is filled that you get to her turn. After this final Ice 3, they stare at Kefka. Kefka stares back at them. The ATB generates, but the music fades. Kefka flashes. And surely but slowly, he dissolves. The day is won. A sigh of relief goes over the runner and over the chat. You see, dear viewers, the reason this is the perfect fight from front to back is this. It's a complete test at the end of the run when the fatigue has really set in. Possible tilt has probably made its way in and out of your mind, and you are still required to play your best and have some luck on your side as well. The ups and downs this fight creates gives the run a lot of weight, a lot of emotion, and purpose with everything that you do right up to the final attack. And every time the fight feels a little bit different. HP going into the fight can be higher or lower, changing your risk assessment. Your splits might be faster or slower, making you want to try and push things a little bit more, maybe hope that you don't get a counterattack, or preying on some random targeting, or maybe you want to stay with the consistent damage. And then, to top it all off, once that is all said and done, you have a tight, scripted fight that, if done well, it's a true testament to any runner who can complete this fight at the end of his journey, and the masterful dancing mad music playing the whole time in our ears. I love this game a lot. I love this run even more. Everything just feels the way it was supposed to be played, on a speedy hard mode requiring reactional thinking, also thinking ahead, while being reactional, and having the menu speed to match it all. And that is why I think any percent glitchless for Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo has the perfect final boss fight. Thank you.